I've been driving for Uber for almost 3 years, and most late-night rides are exactly what you'd expect. Drunk college kids, exhausted nurses getting off a shift, couples arguing in the back seat like you're not even there. Nothing really surprises me anymore. At least, that's what I used to think. This happened last October, a little after 1:30 in the morning. It was cold, the roads were wet from light rain, and I was about ready to call it a night. I'd already done 6 hours, and the city was starting to go quietly. Bars were closing, streets were emptying out, and I figured I'd accept one last ride before heading home. That's when I got the request. The pickup was in a neighborhood I didn't know very well, about 15 minutes outside downtown. The app showed a decent fare, but what caught my attention was the drop-off location. It was way outside the city, almost on the industrial edge where the warehouses and old factories started replacing houses and gas stations. Still, money was money. I drove out there, following the GPS through a maze of dark residential streets. The neighborhood was strange, not dangerous exactly, just too quiet. No porch lights, no TVs flickering through windows, no people outside. Even the parked cars looked like they hadn't moved in weeks. When I pulled up to the pickup spot, there was nobody there. I checked the house number, matched the app. I looked up and down the street, nothing. The app still said, "Rider waiting." I kept the car in park and waited, thinking maybe they were finishing up inside. After about 30 seconds, I sent the usual message, "Hey, this is your Uber, I'm outside." No reply. Another 30 seconds passed. That's when I heard something behind the car. Not a knock, not footsteps exactly, more like the sound of wet shoes dragging across pavement. Before I could even turn around fully, the back passenger side door opened. A man got in and shut it behind him. He didn't say hello, didn't apologize for being late. I didn't even ask if I was the right driver. He just sat down. I glanced at him in the mirror and said, Jason?" That was the name on the account. He didn't answer. I figured maybe he was drunk, tired, or just rude. It happens. So I started the trip. The whole time, something fell off. He looked wrong, not in some dramatic horror movie way, just wrong enough to bother me. He was wearing a dark jacket zipped all the way up to his throat, and his hair was wet like he'd been standing outside in the rain. His skin looked pale, almost gray in the passing streetlights. But it was the way he sat that got to me. He never moved, not once. Most passengers shift around, look out the window, check their phone, cough, do something. This guy just sat perfectly still, hands in his lap, staring forward, and he was breathing. Slowly, way too slowly. I'm not exaggerating. At one point, I found myself listening to it because it was so strange. Long pause, one inhale, long pause, one example, like he was remembering how to do it. About 20 minutes into the drive, we were far from the city lights. Hardly any other cars were on the road, just long, empty stretches, chain-link fences, and old buildings in the distance. That's when my phone chimed. I looked down at the mounted screen. Ride canceled. For a second, I thought maybe it was a glitch, but the app had completely ended the trip. No route, no fare estimate, just the normal screen like I was available for another request. I laughed, nervous more than anything, and said, "Hey man, looks like the app canceled the ride." No response. I looked in the rearview mirror. He was still there. Same posture, same blank expression, same dead still body in the back seat. I said, a little louder this time, "You still need me to take you somewhere?" Nothing. That was the moment I should have pulled over. I know that now, but something about the silence made me panic in a stupid, automatic way. I didn't want to turn around and face him. I didn't want to stop on an empty road in the middle of nowhere. And I just kept driving toward the destination I'd memorized from the app before it disappeared. A few minutes later, I reached the area. It was an abandoned industrial lot surrounded by rusted fencing and broken concrete. There were old warehouse buildings with smashed windows, graffiti on the walls, and huge sections of darkness where even the moonlight didn't reach. I slowed the car to a stop. My hands were shaking now. I swallowed and said, "All right, we're here." No answer. I finally worked up the nerve to turn around. The back seat was empty. I froze. I didn't hear the door open. I didn't hear movement. I didn't hear a seatbelt click, footsteps, nothing. He was just gone. I threw the dome light on and looked everywhere. Floorboards, between the seats, like somehow a full-grown man had crouched down to mess with me. Nothing. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The back passenger seat was wet. Not damp, wet. Like someone had been sitting there in soaked clothes for a long time. I sped out of that lot so fast, I nearly hit the gate on my way back to the road. When I got home, I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe the guy slipped out quietly at some point. Maybe the app glitched. Maybe I was tired and not thinking straight. So, the next morning, I contacted Uber's support about the canceled ride, mostly because I wanted to know if I was still getting paid. I wish I hadn't. After being transferred twice, the support rep told me they were looking into an issue with the account that requested the ride. She sounded nervous, like she wasn't supposed to say much, but before ending the call, she asked me something strange. She asked if I had seen the rider. I said yes. There was a long silence. Then she said the account belonged to a man named Jason Mercer, and according to a police report filed 3 weeks earlier, Jason Mercer had been missing since the night he left a bar downtown and called for a ride home. He was never seen again. I hung up immediately and just sat there staring at my kitchen wall. A week later, they found his body, not in the city, not near the bar, in an abandoned industrial area outside town, the same one I drove to that night. I stopped driving after midnight after that. I stopped driving altogether a month later, and to this day, I still think about one thing more than anything else. If Jason had already been missing for weeks, then who got into my car that night? And why did it need one last ride back there?